Okay, welcome back to solo role Mangging, Shadowdark, with a lot of house rules, and we're doing on Borderlands from Letters from the Dark, Volume 4. We're at the Caves of Chaos, not Chaos, Caves of Chaos. They look like the Caves of Chaos, but they're not. And we've made some very slight incursions into the goblin territory. Killed a few bugbears. But, actually, I think we just killed like one bugbear. We haven't done much. But we met some friendly elves. And one of their own volunteered to come with us and join us on our expedition. So that's good. And we're planning on now heading up to this mausoleum area that's right up here, up this ramp. I mean, we would see, of course, this this door with a pentagram on it. But, yeah, I mean, I guess now that we have a cleric here, he could probably inspect that and tell us that it's magically sealed by some sort of chaotic energy. It won't open for anyone but a dark creature of chaos. But before we get into that and go up the ramp towards the mausoleum, I wanted to mention a few more house rules that I have since added. Yes, I can't stop modifying. The first thing here is that fighters, each level, generally like when they level up, but not necessarily, I suppose. But basically once per level if they so choose. During downtime in a settlement, they can spend time training in order to change a weapon type that they have mastery with. So if we decided that, oh, you know, Craig, your strength's going up, maybe you're better off actually using a proper weapon like a longsword, he could spend time in a town training and switch to a longsword. It's a little abstracted because it's like, why does he then suddenly become not good at all with daggers, which he used for years of his life? Whatever. It's a mechanical thing that a lot of people have house ruled so that the DM isn't incentivized to create loot specifically with characters in mind, which I think is kind of a no-no. That's sort of like a modern MMO video game kind of idea. Loot should just be loot that exists in the world. And it makes it so that fighters don't feel completely just like, you know, a fighter should be kind of a master of weapons, of warfare, of combat. They should be flexible enough to spend time training and be better with a different type of weapon if that's what they so choose. So that just codifies it a little bit if they want to switch because they find like a +2 warhammer and they've used longswords all their life. It's like, well, fuck it. I want to learn how to use warhammers. But it's once per level, so you're kind of locked in for a while. But at least there's an option now. Okay, so that one's simple. Other stuff, a bit more impactful, a bit more experimental. So first one is charging. This is I took from Tales of Argosa, but also I believe it's an axe. And it's probably in other games as well. But basically, in Tales of Argosa, you can charge for like your whole turn. You move, you attack, you get a +2 bonus to your attack roll, but any enemies that attack you until your next turn get a +2 against you. I decided, since Shadowdark is all about advantage and disadvantage rather than numbers, you can charge, move up to your speed, make an attack with advantage, but any attacks against you until your next turn are also made with advantage. So it's pretty high risk, high reward sort of thing. you know, if your whole team charges in, you could just drop the whole enemy group in a big flurry of blows. But if you don't, yeah, it could be really bad. So we're gonna see how that goes. I think it's balance. I mean, it's a risky maneuver. A charging should be a risky maneuver, so I think that's good. Rather than sitting back and preparing an attack or something, especially preparing an attack in case the enemy charges at you, because then you'll get to make your prepared attack with advantage. You might drop them before they even get to attack you on the charge. So I think there's pros and cons there, and I like it. All right, and then the perhaps most controversial thing here is the addition of cleaving. So this is directly taken from Axe, but it's not the only game to do that. And there are other games that give like fighters the ability to attack a number of one-hit dice creatures equal to your level per turn. So if you're level 4 and there's 4 one-hit dice monsters like bandits in front of you, you can attack 4 bandits per turn. Cleaving is a little bit broader, while also being a little bit more restrictive. When a character drops an enemy to 0 HP in melee or ranged combat, they may choose to cleave a target within close distance of the dropped target. This allows them to roll another attack against that enemy, potentially cleaving multiple targets in a row. Melee combatants may move a close distance, or 5 feet, between cleaves, provided they're not already engaged with a target. Fighters may cleave a number of times per round equal to their level. Priests and thieves a number of times equal to half their level round down, and wizards not at all. A thief's backstab bonus does continue to apply if used on a cleave, assuming that each additional target is also eligible to be backstabbed. So if you get the jump on 2 guys, you can backstab both of them in just a big flurry of knife attacks. Also, advantage from charging can apply to each subsequent target. So a fighter that charges into a crowd of goblins could just slaughter a good number of them, depending on your level. And really, like, a level 5 fighter should just decimate a pack of 4 or 5 goblins on a charge. You know, like, it should be speed fucking slaughter. Now, this is a rule that's intended to somewhat curb the linear fighter quadratic mage issue, where wizards and stuff, magic users, just get progressively more and more and more powerful on a larger scale than fighters do, because fighters are still just swinging a sword and hitting something pretty hard. So this gives fighters basically AoE, or potential to do more AoE. It's not really going to work against hefty targets, because you have to kill the target in one shot, or you know, you have to drop the target in order to attack something else. But it, like I said, it's an alternative to that thing of you can attack a number of one-hit dice stuff. It's meant for you to be able to cleave through and kill multiple little puny targets, which a mage can pretty easily just blast away anyways. So that's mostly the intended thing, but it's a little bit more flexible than that. And it also allows you to do this with ranged weapons. So you can be like Legolas, and if you just have a longbow and there's 5 goblins in front of you, you know, you're just pew, 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 and they're all dropping dead, and it's badass. I don't know if it's super balanced. I know Shadowdark is pretty adamant about not giving fighters additional attacks or anything per round, so this is breaking that completely. But, I mean, as far as I can tell, a high-level fighter, not, you know, ignoring magic items, and I know one of the big things about fighters is they do get access to magic weapons and magic armor and stuff that wizards don't, but ignoring that, fighters at level 8 are just swinging once per turn, very likely to hit, and hit very hard. Whereas a high-level wizard, if we look at, like, let's look at a tier 5, or some high-tier wizard stuff. What would be... Well, let's just look at Fireball. I mean, that's the classic example, right? So Fireball, far range, near-sized cube take 4d6 damage. So I'm just talking about, like, a pack of goblins, right? So when you hit level 5, or what I think level 5, you hit tier 3, you have Fireball, you can walk into any room, and blast 30 feet cube for an average of 14 damage, which is going to kill, like, decimate any goblin that's in there, right? So a wizard just walks in, snaps their fingers, and boom, goblins all dead. A fighter could run in and swing once and kill one goblin, and that would be his turn. And yeah, like, pretty damn skippy, he's gonna kill that he's gonna kill that one goblin, no doubt about it. But that's it. So that's sort of the issue, and cleaving goes a long way in helping with that. I mean, the fireball is still like it's hard to fucking beat. Yeah, it's hard to beat. It's a classic for a reason, but cleaving helps a bit. Okay, so we're gonna give that rule a try. We'll see how it goes. Also, I think it's just kind of badass, especially like thieves with backstabbing and stuff, and being able to just like do some Assassin's Creed stuff where you can do like double assassinations on 2 targets if you catch them unaware and stuff. So yeah, I think that's cool. The last thing is not something I have written down yet, because I'm not sure if I want to codify it, if I want it to be part of what I do here with Shadowdark. It's easily the biggest change out of all this stuff. And that's, do I want to use axe spells instead of Shadowdark spells? Now, if I was running this for a new group, never would that even enter my mind. Like, no way in hell. Shadowdark spells are extremely simple to understand. They're very short, basic. It's minimal text, but, you know, there's rarely any confusion about what these spells do. Like Fireball, look at that. That's 2 sentences of description. And it's like, there's no confusion there, right? Whereas if we compare that to the Axe Fireball, this has 3 lengthy paragraphs devoted to the text. It's way more involved. It's way more to like write down on your character sheet or keep track of and all that. Like, yeah, I mean, I've run into that problem multiple times DMing, because I have a player that likes to be a mage, and I use axe spells for Tales of Argosa, and it's just like, okay, well, here's your spell. It's like 4 paragraphs, and he just writes like, you know, like 10 words to, and every time he does that, and every time he casts, it's like, okay, well, hold on, I have to look up that spell because he wrote way too little about it. I need to know the full text of the spell to know what it does. So yeah, I mean, and making this change is absolutely like crucifying this the concept of simplicity, the value of simplicity for Shadowdark. I get that. But when we're doing a game like this that is a lot more involved than base Shadowdark, we care a lot more about larger scale play. We care a lot more about domain play. We care about hirelings. We care even about hiring armies and mercenaries and all that. We care a lot more about the rules for overland travel and survival and stuff. There is something very much to be gained by looking at the Axe spell list instead. Which does care a lot more about larger ranges rather than just far, you know? Like Fireball has a range of far in Shadowdark, which is within sight. That bothers me, because you can see a very far way across like a grassland. If you're up on a hill or something, you can see a very far way, and I'm supposed to just expect that a level 5 mage could just cast Fireball and it goes like miles away to wherever he wants to point it at, you know? Or Magic Missile, which never misses and goes out to far range. You know, like, so if I'm flying on like a hippogriff and I fly above a city like 5 miles in the air, I can just start sniping people indiscriminately. Like, it's just crazy. Axe solves all of that. Everything is very clearly defined. Ranges are very clearly defined by feet. You know, like, there's no ambiguity here. Fireball goes 360 feet. That's it. It has a 20-foot diameter spear. That's specific. You know, The other thing is scaling. Fireball scales 1d6 points of fire damage per level, which means at level 5 it would do 5d6 points of fire damage rather than 4d6. But there's balance in that a lot of these effects are going to prompt a save on the enemy's part. So a really good example here is Slumber. So we can directly compare Sleep and Slumber. Okay, so let's look at Sleep first. I mean, variety is another selling point here. Axe does have more spells by default. All right, so here's Sleep in Shadowdark. It's a tier 1 spell for wizards. The range is near, so like 30 feet or so, because it emanates directly from the wizard, 30 feet cube extending from them. Which means that it can be a little indiscriminate. You can't just cast it from the back line and put everything to sleep. But anything that's level 2 or less, 2 hit dice or less, as a living creature, falls into a deep sleep. No save, nothing. If they're there and they're level 2 or less, done, sleep, over. It's a very powerful spell at low levels, and then once you get past that, you're very unlikely to almost ever use it again outside of certain situations where you come across bandits or goblins and you're just like, yeah, whatever. But at that point, you're probably just going to use like Fireball or something. You know? So it's a spell that exists and then it just falls off. I compare this now to the Slumber spell from Axe. This is a level 1 arcane spell, but also a tier 2 divine spell if priests wanted to get into it. It has a range of 180 feet, so it's way farther out you can cast Slumber. It has a duration of 1 turn per caster level compared to Shadowdark, which has no duration whatsoever. It's just a deep sleep, so there's no indication of how long it takes for them to wake up normally. Do they ever wake up normally? If I put something into a magical sleep, do they just eventually starve to death if I don't wake them? Or is it just like sort of a normal deep sleep? It's not a normal deep sleep, though, because normal deep sleep, you'd probably wake up if there's a combat going on around you. And so, again, Axe is very specific about that. Attacking, damaging, or moving a slumbering creature awakens it, but normal noise does not until the expiration of the spell, and it has an expiration, so it's very clear. Also, it's also scaled and somewhat limited because it can only affect living targets fewer than 5 hit dice. And the diameter of the area is a lot less. It's a 10-foot diameter, so that's like a third as much. But it can affect higher level creatures by default. Anything with 1 hit dice just falls asleep, so that's half as good as sleep. But it can affect 2, 3, and 4 hit dice with a saving throw. Now, again, the problem, same as Tales of Argosa, is I have to manually convert every saving throw that Axe mentions over to a standard stat, because Shadowdark does not have paralysis, blast, death, saving throws. That's a problem I already deal with Tales of Argosa. It's not that big of an issue or anything. The thing with Tales of Argosa is we have a specific luck stat that you roll under, but in this case, it would be rolling against the spell check, I suppose, which is the easiest way to do it. That's not how Axe does it. That's more how DCC does it, and I think that's generally fair. Because then that determines, you have to... Okay, and that's the other big thing between Axe and... Axe, when you cast the spell, you cast the fucking spell, it's done. Shadowdark, you have to roll to cast the spell, which means you could fail and lose it for the day. So there's a risk there. So for a lot of these things, you have to roll to see if you succeed, and there's going to be a saving throw, which could fail. They could succeed on that. So there's 2 points of failure for the wizard casting each spell, or for a lot of these spells. But I think that helps a lot with balance because you could potentially cast this spell numerous times, much like, like in Shadowdark. So some of these spells are going to be more powerful. Some are going to be maybe potentially a little weaker, at least at lower levels or something like that. But the nature of Shadowdark magic compared to Vancian magic, I think balances it out somewhat. Yeah, I mean, there are absolutely times where you'd rather have this version of Sleep. Primarily just due to the size of it, like a 30-foot cube. And level 2 or less is just drop. If I'm entering a room full of level 2 orcs, for example, or gnolls. So yeah, I think gnolls are level 2. So I enter a room, a 30-foot by 30-foot room of gnolls, and there's like 20 of them. I could just stand in the doorway, cast Sleep once, I succeed, they're all done, combat over. Like, that is a massive encounter solved instantly with one tier 1 spell. Compared to if I tried to do that with Slumber, it would be like, okay, they'd all get a saving throw, and it would only be a 10-foot diameter sphere, so you're probably only getting like half. You're probably only getting like maybe 6 gnolls with that, and then you still have 14 gnolls that are gonna just murder you and slaughter you and rip you apart. So, yeah. So it's pros and cons. I mean, there could even be a reality, I'd say, where I run this and I would let people choose. Like if they want to be a Shadowdark wizard or an Axe wizard kind of thing. Like they can choose which spell list they'd rather play with. I'd be fine with that. As a DM, it wouldn't really impact me much. Yeah, it's hard to say. I mean, another thing would be like cure wounds. I don't know if there is another cure wounds. There's one cure wounds spell in Shadowdark, and that's it. It restores roll a number of d6s equal to 1 plus half your level. So that scales on and on and on. You just have to take cure wounds once as your one of your tier 1 spells, and you're set for life for healing. So that means at level 1, you roll 1d6. At level 2, you're going to roll 2d6. At level 4, you're going to roll 3d6, 6, 4d6, so on and so forth. Compare that then to Axe for the Cure Light Injury and all that stuff. So Cure Light Injury is going to be 1d6 plus 1. You can also cure paralysis. You can also reverse it to cause light injury. And then you get cure moderate injury as a divine 2, so that's going to be at level 3. And that's 2d6 damage. I assume it's just 2d6, not 2d6 plus 1. Which is sort of an interesting thing. The average of 1d6 plus 1 is going to be 4.5. The average of 2d6 is 7. So it's not really that much better. But yeah, it does have a lot higher maximum. And a high, it's the same minimum. And then you have Cure Major Injury, which would be at level 5. That's 2d6 plus half your level, which would be 2d6 plus 2, which is not that much better. Cure Serious Injury at level, what would that be, 7 or something like that? Or something like that. I think 7. That's 2d6 plus your level. And then Cure Critical Injury is a 9th level spell, is 4d6 plus your level. So the scaling is certainly a lot worse if you use Axe. Like, The Shadowdark version caps out at level 10, and it's 66 or something. I think that's right. So the scaling's definitely a bit worse, but Shadowdark, it's wrapped up everything into one spell. And if you fail the spell check to cast it, it's gone. And that's your whole form of healing, magical healing, is just gone. Whereas if you divide it into these spells and say you're level 3, you can do Cure Moderate Injury, and maybe you could cast that like 8 times in a day. But then if you lose it, you can still drop down to Cure Light Injury. You have an alternative. So I think Axe is probably better for out of combat healing, whereas Shadowdark would be better for in combat healing because it's going to be a higher number. And you probably want to do that in combat to get the maximum effect for your round. So yeah, I think it's interesting. I think there's pros and cons. I just really love this spell list, you know, and there's just so many spells that we've never gotten to and things like that. Like I said, it's also a bigger spell list. It has just the more specific stuff that I tend to like when I'm DMing and I would play. But I'm not ever going to say that it's just a better choice. I do think the Shadowdark spell list is really good for what Shadowdark was designed to do. But we're just hacking Shadowdark quite a lot. So there's probably a tipping point, I think, where we would be better off hacking Axe to make it more like Shadowdark rather than hacking Shadowdark to make it more like Axe. I mean, I'm borrowing rules from some other places as well, but this is certainly like some Shadow Axe shit we're doing. It's just such a masterfully written book. It's hard not to take as much as I can from it. So, if we were to convert Kurathair right now over to an Axe spell list, Sleep would change to Slumber, Magic Missile would change to Mage Missile, Hold Portal would change to... That's a good question. There is definitely an equivalent. Seal Portal, yeah. Detect Magic would change to Discern Magic, and Burning Hands would change to Fan of Flames, which would probably be the biggest upgrade for him. Because Burning Hands sucks. Like, I do not like the Shadowdark Burning Hands. It's probably one of my least favorite spells it offers at level 1. Whereas Fan of Flames is quite useful. It's a 40-foot long, 20-foot wide fan of flames. Each creature of the caster's choice within the fan must make a blast saving throw. If they fail, they suffer 1d8. If they succeed, they suffer half. It can also damage structures in the area and cause combustibles to ignite, which is similar to what Burning Hand says. Unattended flammable objects ignite. But this is specifically a melee ability. Like, it only is just burning hands around his person. It does not shoot out flames in any capacity. So it's just a melee burn of everything around him for 1d6. So if you swap to Fan of Flames, you get way more range and AoE. Like, it can hit a lot of potential targets. 40-foot long, 20-foot wide is quite nice. But Burning Hands does guaranteed 1d6 if you succeed on the spell check. If you change to Fan of Flames, you have to succeed on the spell check, and they have to make a dex saving throw. Overall, I'd say Fan of Flames is better, but that's just because I have a really low opinion of Burning Hands. So, yeah, I think it's good. I think it's good, and I think I'm very tempted to swap. So I guess we can give it a try, and that's mostly what this is about, is trying different house rules, trying different mechanics. So fighters and thieves get a bump now due to cleave mechanics and charging mechanics, but the mage is going to get his own bump in the form of spell changes. So we're going to just change this to Fan of Flames. Yeah, I mean, it doesn't really matter. Yeah, it's a lot more text. Certainly playing in person, you know, especially with like a group that doesn't care as much or is not that fanatical about magic as I am, they could be just fine with Shadowdark spells. And really, I could be just fine with Shadowdark spells. I just think this is better. Alright. Discern magic. Old portal becomes seal portal. Alright. Magic missile becomes mage missile. I had to change the names of everything due to the OGL, or they're not OGL or something like that. So mage missile is interesting. We no longer have advantage on it, but that's balanced out by the fact that mage missile can be cast every subsequent round for free. So as long as he casts it once in the battle, he can just auto hit until he loses concentration. But that does encourage DMs to try to fuck with the mage that's just spamming laser beams every round, which is what most mages at low levels with magic missile do anyways. It's just here it can be interrupted. Alright, and then last is slumber. Alright, so we're gonna give that a try, see how it goes. At least here, like, I like the Shadowdark magic system. I still think it's perfectly viable. Compared to Tales of Argosa, where I had no interest in it. I never even tried. I think maybe we tried once, the Tales of Argosa magic system. Very briefly. And then said, fuck this. Okay. But yeah, it still should correspond pretty nicely. There's 5 tiers of spells, just like Shadowdark. We still have to make a spell check, which is 10 plus the tier of the spell, so on and so forth. So it should work out fine. Alright, let us now progress up the ramp towards the mausoleum. It's a large marble structure with ancient architectural style. We can see the door to the mausoleum is pretty obviously sealed shut with mortar, invisible mortar. So we'd have to try to break this thing down. Unless we have some magical means of entering. Or some way to dissolve the mortar or something like that. I don't know if I could just spam Fan of Flames on it and that would like melt the mortar. Does mortar melt? Is that something that would work? Should we Google at what temperature does mortar melt? Do not heat mortar above 120 degrees Fahrenheit. Oh. Mortar doesn't exactly melt like ice. It decomposes and loses structural integrity at high temperatures. You don't say. Can handle up to 600 degrees. I would imagine a fucking flamethrower is probably higher than that. What temperature is a flamethrower? 1400 to 2100 degrees Fahrenheit. Let's go with that, shall we? So yes, we could basically just cause the mortar to decompose. Probably this requires like a certain amount of time of application. So we're going to say, oh gosh. I feel like I just have to pick an arbitrary number here. Let's say 3 rounds. I have to sustain a fan of flames on it for 3 rounds for it to decompose enough for the door to just kind of swing open. But this is this is a quieter method rather than smashing open the mausoleum door, which, you know, stealth is paramount. So let's do it. He's going to try to cast this 3 times. He failed immediately. He walks up the door. He's like, all right, I got this, guys. Impotence. Fucking Kurathair. Chaining the axe doesn't make him fucking useful suddenly. God damn it. All right. Well, in that case, we just have to break it open. Do we have a crowbar? No, we never bought that. We only bought the crawling kits, which were very basic shit. So we have no leverage. Craig is just going to have to kind of smash his shoulder against it, which is not easy or quiet or anything like that. I feel like it says that the sound wakes the dead inside, beginning the animation process 1 round early. That's fine. But I think probably, depending on how long this takes, we should absolutely have a random encounter check. So basically, for every round he fails, I'm going to roll a d6 until we get either inside or a random encounter. And then no matter what, we're beginning this animation process. Oh, God. While living creatures are in the mausoleum, 1d4 corpses reanimate as zombies each round due to ambient evil magic brought by the cultists. Oh, and good, they contain embalming fluid and they take double damage from fire. Fucking Kurathair. What a piece of shit. Alright, Craig, you need a 17 or higher on a d20. Fail. 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 Fail, 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 fail. Okay, he got it. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 rounds it took him. So we're going to roll 10d6. And if any ones come up, that's a random encounter. Oh, we got ones, man. Oh, we got 1-1. Wow. Okay, that's surprising. 1-1. Good thing the number wasn't 2 because we rolled 4 of those. All right, so we have 1 random encounter as we burst through the thing. Now, the thing there for the mausoleum doors said that failure results in it starting 1 round early. It would be cruel then, I suppose, for me to say that it starts 10 rounds early, even though that would be the more sensible thing. But we'll follow the thing. All right, so let's roll for our random encounter. It's a d4, even though it says d6 here for some reason. 1d4 ghouls. Okay. So 1d4 ghouls are waiting for us and just rush out at us. So that means that they had foreknowledge and have line of sight. We had no foreknowledge and we have line of sight. We're at a disadvantage there. So foreknowledge, line of sight, just line of sight. We roll surprise, they don't. That's it. That's how it works. So there's no... They just can't be surprised, and we can. And I'm pretty sure, if I recall from looking at the ghouls, they don't get any bonus for being stealthy or anything. So yeah, I mean, they're just trying to jump us. So on a 1 or a 2, we are surprised. Okay, we're not. We probably expected after that long that something heard us and was waiting for us. So okay, we got our weapons ready. Now, I actually did start the very, very, very fucking slow process of converting axe monsters to the Shadowdark sort of stat blocks. And let me tell you, the people that worked on this Shadowfinder book, good God. I mean, I can't really fathom how much time it took to put this all together. Because it felt excruciating. So I imagine they had some better system than I did. Maybe. But man, it felt slow. I got like 2 creatures done after like half an hour. And I was like, yeah, I'm good. It probably helps that Pathfinder includes all their stats, I'm pretty sure. Whereas for Axe, I kind of had to like cross-reference or look up D&D 5e stats or try to, you know, whatever. But yeah, it was so slow. And I got 2 done. I was like, A, this is going to take an eternity. And B, for a lot of this stuff, I'm going to have to reference the Axe Monster Manual anyways for various things. Because, like, I'm going to want to know how many appear in a group or what the layer percentage is. Or I'm going to want to know if they have, like, other senses or if they have a surprise bonus. You know, like, there's just things the Shadowdark stat block's not going to tell me. So, really, I'm better off just using fucking Axe Monster Manual anyways. The Shadowdark stat block doesn't really help me much except for knowing, like, their stats, like their dexterity or something. But if I'm going to cross-reference one thing or the other, I'd rather use this and cross-reference dexterity if I need to know it or something rather than the alternatives. So yeah, I gave up on that project. So we could use Shadowdark ghouls at this point if we wanted, and we can compare and contrast to see which one we prefer here. So the ghoul here has 11 AC, 11 hit points, 1 claw attack for +2 that does 1d6 damage and paralyze. They're undead, so they're immune to morale checks, and the paralyze is a DC 12 con check or be paralyzed for 1d4 rounds. Okay, not really too bad. They're level 2 undead creatures with 1 claw attack. Compare that to the Grave Ghoul for Axe. 2 hit dice, so they have 9 hit points. 13 armor, which is definitely too higher, so there's that. And they get 3 attacks per turn, 1d3, 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 and all of them can cause paralysis. There's no doubt that the Axe Ghoul is far more dangerous. Really, the only thing this version has over it is +2 hit points. But 2 less AC is pretty significant. And they only have 1 chance to paralyze each turn. And the paralysis is 1d4 rounds compared to 2d4 turns. That is massive. And the fact that in here, if you don't get it cured by casting Cure Disease, you're doomed to become a ghoul. Also, if you avoid paralysis totally, but you lose 50% more of your total HP fighting them, you get it anyways. So yeah, the Axe Ghoul is far more dangerous. I can see why this ghoul is what it is. But this feels a bit too modern D&D. In fact, that's a good question. Let's just look at the 5e ghoul real quick. Okay, so they get a bite attack or a claw attack. The bite attack just does piercing damage. The claw attack, again, this is 1 attack per turn, does slashing damage. And if you're not an elf or undead, you have to succeed on a DC 10 con saving throw or be paralyzed for 1 minute. But you can repeat the saving throw at the end of each of your turns. You know? I think this ghoul has a lot more similarities to the Shadowdark one than the Axe one. So... yeah, fuck it. We play real D&D around these parts. So we're gonna go with the Axe Grave Ghoul here. But as far as like what their dexterity is, yeah, I'll still probably reference Axe or Shadowdark or D&D or something. So they have +1. We have a net total of +1. We're not counting our cleric because he's a hireling. So our initiative is 7. Theirs is 6. We get to go first. Excellent. We were ready for him, apparently. So yeah, it's very possible for you to set an ambush with foreknowledge, and they're not surprised, and they win initiative. It's very possible. Okay, well, they're undead. So, oh, yes, I guess this would be another thing that we have to question. We'd have to convert priests then. If we're going to use the divine spell list from Axe, there is no turn undead spell. That's an innate feature of the divine classes. They get rebuke undead, which would be based on this whole chart here and dice throws and stuff. So that would be another kind of big change. So say we had a level 1 Crusader in Axe that wanted to rebuke the ghouls. He'd have to roll a 16 or higher on a d20, and that would rebuke them. So they'd become frightened for 10 rounds, during which they would flee. Yeah, I mean, okay, and let's just compare that real quick to Turn Undead spell. Undead creatures within near view must make a charisma check opposed by your... What am I hearing? Okay, it sounded like a vocal. Kind of vocally. Charisma check opposed by your spellcasting check. If they fail by 10 or more points and are equal to or less than your level, destroyed. Otherwise, flees from you for 5 rounds. There's probably a way to figure out the math equivalence here. Let's see. What's the average of a d20? Isn't it going to average out to like 11? So his average roll is going to be 12. The ghoul's charisma is +0, so his average is going to be 11. So on average... Yeah, on average, all of these ghouls would flee. That's not really going to happen, likely, but it's... Yeah, I mean, that's the average across, like, 1,000 of these types of battles. All 4 ghouls would flee. Because there's no limit to how... Like, there's no limit to how high level that you can try to turn. Like, Ryan could walk up to, like, a level 9 skeleton... god juggernaut or something, and if it fails its charisma check, it flees. I think that's a little weird, I'm gonna be honest, and I don't know if I agree with that, because I don't know if any other OSR game works like that. Whereas this is quite a bit more balanced. It's based, though, very specifically on the type of undead, which means that you'd kind of have to figure out... Well, yeah, okay. So say you had a skeletal god juggernaut, and say it was a level 4 Crusader. That means a level 4 Crusader automatically rebukes skeletons. Forever. All skeletons. But if you succeed on the roll, or you auto rebuke or destroy, you have to roll 2d6, and that's the number of hit dice. Which means that, say that is a level, like a level 9 hit dice skeletal juggernaut, it's very possible and plausible that you would just fail to rebuke it, because your average is going to be like 7. And you have to rebuke any lower hit dice monsters first before higher ones. matter what the roll result, though, is, at least one undead monster will always be rebuked or destroyed. So if you're just facing off against the Juggernaut, you would auto rebuke it. But when are you going to fight just one big Juggernaut skeleton? You know, there's going to be all sorts of undead. So I think then, if you're fighting a mix, right? Say you're level 1, you're fighting 2 skeletons, 2 zombies. You'd roll the d20, and if you rolled an 11, that would rebuke the skeletons, but not the zombies. I think is how that works, right? I don't think you have to pick a specific type. And that's what you're rolling, you know. So, okay. Yeah, I think that's probably what we're going to switch to. It makes relative good sense. It works. It's not... Yeah. Yeah, I think so. I don't know. I feel like we're in this slippery slope where we're changing more and more, and losing all this simplicity. And now I have to put in like another table or something to reference. Whereas for Turn Undead here, you never have to reference anything. Like, it's a very simple, obvious effect. So yeah. It's a powerful... I mean, it's got to be one of the most powerful Turn Undead spells. Or effects for any cleric. Let's just look at the OSE version real quick as a comparison. So they also have to reference a chart. They just roll 2d6. And that's the number of hit dice affected, either turned or destroyed. And at least one will always be affected. Right. So at level 1, it's just based on the hit dice. There's no... there's no different types or anything. So... Okay, so it's two 2d6 rolls. At level 1 against level 1 hits, you have to roll a 7 or higher to succeed, and then you roll a 2d6 to determine how many undead you succeed against. Whereas if you're rolling against like 2 hit dice monsters, you'd have to roll on a 9 or higher to succeed, and then roll 2d6 for how many hit dice. Okay, so Axe changes the first roll to a d20, and separates it by type. So it's a similar system, but slightly different. Okay. Alright, so let's just do it. Then let's give it a try, shall we, on these ghouls. So that means Ryan has to roll a 16 or higher on a d20 in order to succeed. Because they are 2 hit dice with special abilities. Which means if you were following OSE, he'd have to roll 11 or 12 on 2d6. Which is, I think, worse odds, I would imagine. So, yeah, 16 or higher on a d20 for Ryan's turn. He fails. So, he tries to rebuke them in the name of the Lord. And they just fucking spit in his face. Okay, well, no joy there, then. Kurathair, spell-wise, all he's got is Mage Missile. So he's going to give it a go. He succeeds. Excellent. Good. So he's just going to do 1d4 damage to one target. And then he can just keep doing that every turn now until he loses concentration. All right, so one of the ghouls... I wouldn't even roll how many ghouls there were, right? It's 1d4. All right, let's roll. Oh, there's only one. Okay, the one ghoul wandered over here, heard us banging on this thing for like an hour. And jumped out at us. Okay, so he's at 6 hit points. Craig then will jump forward with his new Masterwork Elven Dagger. And that is a kill. Okay, well that was easy. Yeah, that was pretty easy. Yeah. Okay, that was probably the easy part though. So we got 38 XP for that. So we know there's undead afoot, and we know that we made a hell of a racket, so God knows what we've stirred up now. It's crawling out of the tombs. There's definitely no light in this area, so we're going to need to light up. But thankfully, Ryan has illumination. Not light. He has illumination. So, let's look that up real quick. This music doesn't quite fit going into a dark, dangerous tomb. I don't know if any of these really will, though. It's good enough. Not that biggie. All right, so illumination. It's basically a light spell. But this is 1 hour of real time, and it can only affect an object. Illumination can create a spherical region of light around a location or object. And you can also reverse it for darkness, which is sometimes valuable. And it lasts an hour plus 10 minutes per level. So it actually we get a slight boost here to an hour and 10 minutes. All right, but he could fail to cast it. He's going to cast it on probably probably his own shield, I suppose. I think that's fair enough. All right, he succeeded, thankfully. So we have light. We have nice, holy, magical light. And we're going to enter into room number 50. No. Where the hell did we enter? F. Right, F. Say where that even enters? No, it does not say where that enters. Does that enter into the... No, here. Okay, it enters straight into 51. Oh, where they already were prepared. Okay, yes, that makes sense then. Okay, so it's there's dozens of 2-foot wide slots in the tomb's walls. Some contain corpses. There's 4 stone coffins, and this area smells of dust and chemicals. The slots are to inter embalmed corpses. Most corpses have already reanimated and traveled deeper into the caverns. 8 embalmed corpses remain in random niches. While living creatures are in the mausoleum, 1d4 corpses reanimate as zombies each round due to ambient evil magic brought by the cultists. They are flammable, they take double damage from fire, so on and so forth. So there are 8 embalmed corpses total. That's how many zombies we're going to have to kill total here. 1d4 of them have already spawned immediately. So as soon as we killed that ghoul who jumped us, we look behind him and we see 3 zombies crawling, or, you know, sort of heaving towards us. And more seem to be getting up out of the niches. So we're gonna go straight into more initiative. We're not gonna bother rolling with surprise or anything because it's just combat into combat real quick here. So our initiative is 5. They actually get a -2 to their initiative. I always remember that because I'm never sure how to work with that for Tales of Argosa, but now that we're using D6 initiative, we know exactly how that works. So they're clumsy, they suffer a -2 penalty to initiatives. Now, we just use Dex with Shadowdark for initiative usually, but I imagine they have like a -2 Dex in Shadowdark. They do. It works out perfectly. So their initiative is 2. We get to go first. Yeah, so since Turn Undead is no longer a spell, he can actually... Crusaders can do it all the fucking time. There's no limit to how often a Crusader can attempt to rebuke undead each day, but if an attempt to rebuke undead completely fails during an encounter, they cannot attempt to rebuke undead again for the remainder of that encounter. And if you're trying to do something hefty at level 1 like ghouls, you're probably going to fail, so it's just once per encounter attempt there. But zombies are a bit easier, 13 plus, so he's certainly going to try to attempt to rebuke the zombies on his turn. He succeeds. Excellent. So that means that he's going to roll 2d6 to determine how many he gets. There's 3 there. They have 2 hit dice each. Okay, so he rebukes all of them. So that means they're frightened, and on their turn, they're going to flee from our group. Chances are then, if we look at the map, they're going to go... Oh god, yeah, there is no way. There's a secret way through the one of the sarcophagus, but otherwise this is a closed off room. Although there is this chasm here which seems to connect. I wonder if they would just fling themselves into that chasm. I feel like that's something they would do, right? Rather than cower in fear, they would try to get away any avenue they can see, which would be flinging themselves down this chasm. Okay, sure. I don't think players might necessarily realize that immediately, but that's what I'm going to have any surviving zombies do. But we're going to try to kill him. So he's going to cast Mage Missile again. Success. So he does 1 damage to 1. So we have 9 health, 9 health, 8 health. Craig will try to stab the 8 health. He succeeds. Good. So it's down to 4 health. And Scylla will try to shoot it with her bow. It's down to 1 health. Okay. The zombies then flee in terror from Ryarn's holy symbol. And they fling themselves down the chasm. And we don't hear anything because it's 100 feet deep. So it's just... Okay, well that worked well. Let's... One more zombie crawls out towards us. We're not even going to bother trying to turn undead this one because we don't want to fail if it's just 1. So we're just going to shoot him. 4 damage. He's down to 5 health. Magic Missile. Auto. He's down to 2 health. And a stab from a dagger. That will kill him. Technically... Now, these are interred, embalmed corpses. They would not be wearing armor. They just have the base AC of 11. So yes, we stabbed those. So 4 zombies out of 8 are done. Okay, 1 more is kind of lame. Fuck it, let's just make it 4. I'm not even gonna roll. Alright, so 4 more zombies crawl out. The last zombies we can see from the niches. So now Ryan's gonna try to rebuke them again. Need a 13 or higher on a d20. We got it. And he got a 12 roll, so they're all rebuked. At this point, players could say, well, if they're just going to fling themselves down the chasm, we could call it a day. Which we could. There's not much reason to waste arrows or anything like that. But Craig likes to stab stuff, so he's going to stab. Oh, and I get to roll damage twice. I keep forgetting that. Okay, so that would be 3 plus 3, 6 damage to 1. Magic Missile that one for 2. Alright, it's close. Alright, she'll run up and try and stab him in the head just for fun. Nice, okay. The other 3 zombies then are going to also fling themselves off into the chasm. Good thing that chasm was there, huh? And they had no other way of leaving this room. The alternative, of course, would be they either try to barrel through us to get out, which I don't think that's how it works, because Ryan is standing in the entryway. Or they would just cower in fear, and then we could just stab them to death anyways. So, you know. Alright, excellent. That's 29 times 8 zombies we get cleared. 232 XP for that room is excellent. Now imagine that without a cleric. That's why you bring one. Good shit. Okay. So we checked the niches, but there isn't really anything there. And we're going to check the sarcophagus. sarcophagi. There's 4 in a row. The southernmost one has its lid slightly askew as if recently moved. So we check that one first, and we see there's a staircase inside the sarcophagus leading down. Each of the other sarcophagi contains a corpse which animates as a ghast when the lid is open. But then it says treasure. Each undead has a 50-50 chance of a silver holy symbol worth 20 or 200 gold. I assume that's for the gas, not the zombies. So yeah, I mean, we could crack this open, but that is sort of grave robbing. Our elven cleric might have an issue with that. So I think it's likely. I'm gonna roll an oracle with advantage to see if he raises an objection. Okay, he does. So he's like, hey. We're not here to grave rob. We're here to put the undead to rest. Would we be the type of group that sort of just says, yeah, we don't really give a shit? Kurather is lawful, so he probably agrees. Like, yes, you're right. And he's also an elf, so, you know, they stick together. Scylla and Craig are obviously a lot more opportunistic, and they're like, yeah. They might come back here later on their own, which would probably kill them, but fine. For now, they'll acquiesce. And we're going to go down this staircase, and I'm going to roll a random encounter on our way down. We're fine. So that travels down to this hallway. It branches. We see a door ahead of us, and we see the hallway continuing to the north. We're going to check the door, I suppose, and we'll have Scylla creep up and listen at the door. So the advantage of the axe system of listening compared to the OG, well, no, I guess it's the same way. The problem, I suppose, with the Shadowdark thief specifically is that she does not get any benefit to listening ever. There's nothing in the thief class sheet that mentions listening. Climbing, sneaking, hiding, applying disguises, finding and disabling traps, delicate tasks such as picking pockets and opening locks. So the one thing that got dropped from like a classic thief, really, or one of the things, is listening. So you could just give them an advantage on listening checks if you wanted to do it that way, which is probably the easiest way. Just write listening here, you know, and call it a day. That would be the easiest way to do it if you still wanted to just use Shadowdark's D20, all that sort of stuff. It would be the only thing on that list. Well, no, I mean, not all of this is dexterity. Most of this is dexterity, but I would not use dex for applying disguises. That would be like intelligence or something. Whereas listening here is going to be wisdom. But yeah, I guess that's the easiest way to do it, rather than trying to incorporate a scaling 1 in 6 system or trying to copy axe, because both of those are going to require a table that gets better as you go. Because at level 1, the thief listens on a 14 or higher, then 13, 12, 11, 10, 9, 8, 17, you know, so on and so forth down the line. Advantage is the easiest way to do that, because advantage is kind of always good. It's just that the thief does not get any chance to improve their wisdom. So if you have a shitty wisdom as a thief, you're not ever going to really be that great at listening, but you know, at least you have advantage on it, so we're going to do that. Is there even anything to hear there before we get into all this? It's an embalming room. There's no creatures of any kind in it, so you know, I could roll as the DM, but I would just pretend to roll. Well, I guess I'd roll and just say, yeah, you hear nothing. But again, that really, and it's weird. I still have not really done it in play when I'm DMing because I'm just so not used to it. but it is absolutely something a DM needs to roll. And really, they say that stealth rolls are DM as well, because the thief always assumes they're being stealthy. Usually we have like players roll, and if they fail, we say like, oh, you stepped on a twig or something. But it really should never be a representation of the players failing or knowingly failing like that. It should just be the enemies are more observant, or the thief fucks up and just doesn't realize it. Rather than making them kind of grossly incompetent, like, yep, you didn't see that twig and you stepped on it. Also, yeah, I mean, failed stealth checks and stuff can influence their actions. So, because like it shouldn't always be obvious that they failed. Sometimes a creature will hear them and it's not obvious. They're just forewarned in some way. So yeah, those things need to be a DM roll. All right. Right. So we're going to go in then with Craig leading the way. We enter into a big square room. It's like 25 feet by 25 feet. There's doors in each direction. There's a stone table with troughs cut into its surface here, discolored by blood. There's shelves with odd metal tools and jars. And there's a strong chemical smell. Probably pretty clear that this was for embalming then. Table was for embalming corpses. The troughs direct blood to a floor drain. The tools on the shelves are ancient embalming tools in okay condition, worth 200 gold pieces each to a collector of ancient artifacts. That's a very high value. I mean, even for Shadowdark, 20 gold pieces each is a very high value. That's 200 gold for them, which, yeah, I mean, you have to find a collector of ancient artifacts. And I suppose they're not necessarily that lightweight. I don't know what an embalming tool really looks like. But I suppose I'd maybe do 2 slots for all 10. So can we even carry that? Kurathair could hold it. Rhyarn could hold it, but I don't think he's really going to be a pack mule for us. So this would have to be something we'd be like, yep, this is something we want to carry. We want to invest in. We're going to carry these embalming tools out because we know they have value to a collector. Yeah, I mean, that's 2,000 gold. We probably could leave right now and just be happy with that. Oh, that reminds me. I was thinking about that. I bought the treasure tome. Of course I fucking did. How could I not? And I started perusing a little bit of it. Just reading through. And there was one thing, there was a couple things here that I noted. Where did it say? Treasure total, yes. Other D20 fantasy games usually provide much less treasure per monster than Act 2 expects. Because of its deep campaign rules, Act 2 has considerably more activities for high-level player characters to undertake with considerably more money sinks to drain their accumulated wealth than any other D20 fantasy game. So, yeah, Act tends to be higher value and tends because there's so many things for you to spend money on, and like a healing potion here costs 1,100 gold, and you know, a +1 sword is valued at like 5,000 gold. Or actually, a +1 sword is like, to buy a +1 sword would be like 11,000 gold. So yeah, you don't feel bad about throwing out a lot of cash. The other thing that I noted, well, okay, so they added another treasure type table, gritty. It's basically identical to the heroic table, except for one difference. And that's that it's possible to get legendary items a bit easier on the heroic table compared to gritty. But they compensate by making it more likely to get like uncommon and rare items. So like a treasure type of N on the heroic table has a 5% chance to have a legendary item. Where in here, there's 0 chance for a legendary item. But it's there's a bit higher chances for common, uncommon, and rare. So I probably prefer the gritty table over the heroic table, but actually I think the classic's probably the best. The classic sounds the most boring, but I think it's the most appealing, mostly because the heroic table has a lot higher volume of low quality coins like copper and silver compared to the classic table, which condenses a little bit further, a bit more into higher value coins and stuff. So the classic table, if you find a horde of that, it's a lot easier to carry out compared to the heroic table. Depending on the type of game you're running, I suppose you might lean towards the heroic table. But in a slot-based system, it's like, yeah, we've had to just leave a lot of coins behind and stuff, and I don't know. The other difference, I mean, this isn't new or anything, but the classic table divides it up into like sword, weapon, armor, or a potion, or any one item and stuff, whereas the heroic table, gritty tables break it up into common, uncommon, rare, and very rare. So with the classic one, you're much more likely to specifically get weapons or armor of magic. The other ones, it can be all sorts of jumble. The last thing I want to point out then that I saw was the specific rules for ammunition. Remember, we found that cache, and I was upset because I found 1+1 arrow, and I thought that was lame as fuck. Well, now, they put magic ammunition over into weapons instead of miscellaneous items. So it's specifically under the weapon table. But more importantly than that, it's no longer just 1. It'll take me a while to get to it. Yes. So now there's specific types of ammunition. So like a splintering arrow or a travel arrow or a relief bullet or something. So there's specific types listed. Let me just, whoops, whoa, whip. How did that happen? What the fuck? Oh, I'm hitting the wrong... What? No, I was hitting the... What? Oh, I see. Hold on. God. I see. It's because I had the PDF on the other... Yeah, okay. My bad. Freaking me out, man. Alright, so, yeah. So here, ammunition +1. You get 2d10 of it. $2d10. That's so much better. But yeah, I do love like these different types of arrow. Like a travel arrow is an arrow of teleportation. Shooting the arrow while speaking the word goodbye in Elven will cause the archer to vanish as the arrow leaves his bowstring. When the arrow lands, the archer reappears. I love that shit. I love just giving players like 1 arrow of teleportation and just seeing how they might use it. Shooting the splintering arrow while speaking the old Argolian word for splinter will cause it to burst apart where it strikes into a mass of tiny wooden fragments. All non-structural wooden objects will become bent and twisted. Held objects resist on a successful death saving throw. Okay, so it doesn't actually damage. It basically splinters. Yeah, it splinters wooden objects where you shoot it, which is pretty good for like fortifications or walls or oh, it's specifically non-structural. Oh, I see. I guess the best use probably would be like against enemy archers. That's kind of interesting. But yeah, but if you just find a group of +1 arrows and they're just +1 arrows, you get 2d10 of them. Hell of a lot better. Anyways, I just wanted to point that out. Right. So, yeah, this is going to be worth 2,000 gold total, which is a pretty damn solid weight to value ratio. We could, I mean, you could make it 10 slots, in which case it's just not viable to carry out, but I'm gonna make it 2. 2,000 gold. So that means we're gonna add 2,000 to this, which is pretty big. I mean, we're still not enough to level. That's only, especially because we have to give a half share to Ryan of any treasure. You know, he's a person. He deserves stuff. So that's 3.5. We'd each get about 571 XP. So that's still a long ways off. We're gonna need a few more hauls of that magnitude. But yeah, not bad. Okay. The jars contain preserved human organs, worthless but highly flammable due to embalming fluid. Really? Okay, Scylla's gonna grab one of these. Jarred human organ. We'll put that at 0.5. She might just throw that at something. Okay. Let's roll another random encounter check while we're in here, because it's every round in here. Then we have 4 doors. This room to the north is not labeled, so I assume it's just nothing, but it could have a random encounter. I don't think we would hear anything coming from either of these. Doorways, so we'll just roll a d3 or something. South will be 1. Okay, we're gonna go check the western door. There's nothing to be heard, so we're fine. Alright, so we open up that door, and we see a holy symbol, a golden holy symbol hanging above the sort of archway past the door. It's a symbol of the lost deity of death. It's worth 400 gold. Prevents undead and anyone who speaks diabolic from entering the room. It loses magic if removed. There's also a chest in here that's filigreed. Contains 2 flasks of holy water. It's pretty good. Would we take the symbol of the lost deity of death? Now, obviously, the cleric is going to sort of throw out an argument that taking a holy symbol from a tomb is probably not the best idea, especially one dedicated to a deity of death. But I could also say that Craig and Scylla might not be that like they might agree with him. So I'm gonna say, do we take the symbol is at disadvantage here? Okay, so we're not gonna touch it. Now I wouldn't do anything if we did take it, but players wouldn't know that, characters wouldn't know that. So it's just like, okay, thank you, God of Death. But the chest, that's a different argument. This is not a tomb or a sarcophagus or anything. This is a chest. We are wary of it, of course. So Scylla's gonna slowly, cautiously approach, check all around it for traps or something, maybe try lifting it up slightly. But it seems to be an utterly normal chest. It's not even locked, so I don't know. Perhaps this area was warded off from any undead or something by that symbol. So she'll open it, and there's 2 flasks of holy water in there. We'll use axe rules for holy water just because it's simpler. We use axe rules for a lot of stuff. So it's valued at 25 gold each for a pint, and they can be thrown at... It's a little bit broader of a description, I think. It's a chaotic enchanted creature. Suffers 1d8 damage, holy damage, for 2 rounds. So chaotic enchanted creature. I know what chaotic means, but I'm just not quite sure about the enchanted aspect. Alright, so statues are all enchanted. But they're neutral, so they're not chaotic. So holy water works probably against everything that you'd imagine it works on. But it does also work against lycanthropes, which are enchanted monstrosities, chaotic creatures. Enchanted, enchanted, enchanted. Enchanted. Layax. Yeah, I would expect it to work against that. Eggs. That's fine. Good, yeah. So this is like neutral statues and stuff. Gargoyles. So it does actually work against gargoyles. Interesting. That's cool. It works against spriggans. Yes. And red caps. Interesting. And it works against enraged brownies, where they become chaotic. They're called bogarts. Yeah, okay. Enchanted creature. A special type of monster can be kept at bay by Holy Circle. Depending on alignment, it's detected by Discern Evil, destroyed or driven off by Dispel Evil. All constructs, incarnations, and undead are enchanted creatures. Right. So it's basically any undead, as well as a few other exceptions, like gargoyles or red caps or something. All right, yeah. So, but it's 1d8 over the course of 2 rounds, assuming you hit. And as far as hitting, it's basically just a ranged weapon attack. Like, we don't need to... Axe includes all sorts of splash rules and stuff like that, but I don't think it really... I don't think we really need it too much. So, yeah. Well, I guess probably that goes to Scylla, who has really good dex. We'll make these 0.5 each, so that's going to be another slot for 2... flask of holy water. Slots per item 1. We have 2. Blah, blah, blah. Oh, no. 0.5. We have 2. 25 gold. So on and so forth. Okay, she's almost full up. We're going to be traveling pretty slow at this rate, man. Maybe try to buy a horse or some sort of animal off of the elves to carry some stuff. Alright, let's roll another random encounter check. Fine. Then we have 2 doors. We'll say 0 is the southern door. Okay, we're gonna go check the southern door. We don't hear anything. And we enter in, and we see a stone door, big stone door, ominous looking, to the southwest, and a little door to the southeast. Now, this is the cursed entryway, where if you go through the pentagram door, you'd end up in this room. It says, non-chaotic creatures who cross the threshold are marked on the forehead with a burning pentagram for 5 rounds. So I assume that to be specifically the archway of this door. So we're entering from a different way. So this room is just fairly unremarkable. There's nothing really in here. If we were to cross back this way, I think we'd also be marked by that thing. But this is still a magically sealed door, and I think we probably would guess that that's the pentagram door. So we're on the other side of it. We're gonna roll random encounter check. We're fine. Then I guess we will, yeah, I guess we'll go down this way, this long, narrow hallway, and we'll listen there. And we're heading into now the cultist section. So this is a stone construction, more recent than the rest of the caverns. There are no random encounters here, but there's a lot of nastiness. There is also lights everywhere. Okay. So we probably would see, I think this would be maybe a listen check. I'm just going to set the DC. I'm not going to set... It's one guy, it's a really big room, and I don't think he's making much noise. He's not actually in the middle of the ritual or chanting or anything. So he might just be like flipping through a book or like shuffling a little bit. So I'm going to set the DC at 18. So she gets advantage, but she needs a 19 or 20. Okay, so she doesn't hear anything. So, but we do probably see some glimmer of light coming through the, underneath the stone door here. So we're going to just open it up. It's probably not going to be too quiet or stealthy or anything. And we see this big pentagram-shaped room. There's a door and a hallway at each point of the pentagram. And yeah, kind of poring over a book or something in this room is this elderly human wearing black robes. He is a cultist priest. He believes that the arrival of the player character signifies that the ritual must begin. He's immune to damage and effects from creatures of a lower level while the ritual is underway. He'll explain the details of the ritual, but he cannot be convinced to stop it. Okay. Well, okay. So the cult believes that the lost deity once worshipped in these caves was actually an ancient archdevil. Their leader, the priest, developed a ritual they believe will summon this fiend. According to their research, the requirements are 5 altars must be constructed around a pentagram. Each altar must represent one of the 5 sacred elements: earth, air, water, fire, and ether. 5 humanoids must be sacrificed within 24 hours, 1 on each altar. And the sacrificial humanoids must be killed by creatures representative of the 5 elements. Once the 5 sacrifices have been performed, the high priest will complete the summoning ritual in the central pentagram. The cultists built the 5 altars and readied the monsters in sacrifice. If the adventurers express any skepticism in the cultist plan, the cultists start the ritual early, planning to sacrifice all the victims by midnight of that night, or earlier if the player characters interfere. Once all 5 sacrifices have been completed or stopped, the priest finishes the ritual in Area 52 and summons a devil. The summoned devil doesn't have to attack, it might become a recurring villain in your continued adventures in the Borderlands. Perhaps it could segue into next issue's adventure, Hell Heist. If the player characters try to stop a ritual, the cultist in that room starts their sacrifice immediately, releasing their sacrifice from the protective area and unleashing that room's monster. The monsters will focus attacks on the player characters if possible. If the PCs flee, the prisoner is sacrificed, completing one part of the ritual. Monsters won't pursue outside of their altar room. If a player character is killed by a monster, they are counted as a successful sacrifice for that altar. So, as an example, the Earth altar in 53... the ground is sand, there's a stone platform, there's a cultist, and a 20-foot tall platform with a human sacrifice. Lurking under the sand is a boulette, level 6, 31 hit points. It attacks when it senses movement on the surface. Okay. So I'm imagining then if we enter that room and try to stop this in some way, the cultist is going to shove the sacrifice, the peasant, onto the sand and then incant something and cause the boulette to activate. Because it says they start the sacrifice immediately, unleashing that room's monster or monsters. So I don't think the monsters are meant to be activated as soon as the players enter. So it says, if the adventurers express any skepticism in the cultist plan, the cultists start the ritual early, planning to sacrifice all the victims by midnight of that night, or earlier if the player characters interfere. So what if we don't express any skepticism? When does this ritual occur? Like, why are they waiting, you know? If they have everything set, I don't understand why they're not just like, okay, kill them all, done. You know, like, I'm not sure why the players would even have a chance to intervene here. And I know it's one of those things that probably only the DM thinks about and the players don't, but if you're going to allow a conversation with the cult leader, I feel like that is a question that could come up legitimately of like, okay, well, why are you waiting? Why haven't you sacrificed them yet? And he's just like, well, the stars are not right yet. Which then begs the question of why they would try to sacrifice them once we start to interfere. I guess, you know, it's like, okay, the stars aren't quite right yet. They want to wait for the most opportune moment. But if we start to interfere, they're going to say, fuck it, and they're going to hope for the best. And in which case, like, if we interfere but we suck at it and they end up completing the ritual regardless, then I'd probably have the devil, like, just go on a rampage. Like, he just immediately kills the cult leader in this just gruesome display, and then he just, like, either attacks the players or, you know, thanks them for their assistance and then disappears. You know, something like that. Because, like, one of the options is, like, a fucking archdevil. Well, I guess if one sacrifice does occur and the ritual happens, there's a barbed devil that comes out. Even if you stop all 5, an imp comes out, which probably isn't too bad, I would imagine. Demon imp. Devil imp, sorry. Yeah, 13 AC, 9 hit points. It can sting. It's got a poison. Yeah, it's not really that bad. So in that case, the priest is like that. This is all we were given. And then the imp just stabs him in the face. Something like that, you know. Like, obviously, it's like, okay, one last little fight and then it's over. But yeah, I mean, a fucking archdevil comes out. That's pretty bad, man. That's a level 16 devil. That's gonna be like a major villain then for your whole campaign. Okay, so how do we want to do that as we enter the room? Because we're going to see this guy in the robes, and obviously most groups would probably just immediately snipe him or try to kill him or something. It says that he's immune to damage and effects from creatures of a lower level where the ritual is underway. What level is he? Well, he's a priest, apparently. And a priest is level 5. So yes, I mean, the players are not going to be able to do shit to him. So he's just protected by this, like, magical barrier that they just cannot penetrate anyway. So even if they try to just, you know, try and bum rush him, it just doesn't do anything. Yes. Okay. I think it's a cool setup. I do like it. I think it's pretty sweet. So Yes, we enter, we see this guy reading a book, and he just looks up at us as we enter, and he smiles, and he says, it is time. Which is sort of contradicts the other thing, because now he believes that the ritual must begin, because he sees this as a sign. But then it says if they express any skepticism in the plan, they start the ritual early. But he already says that he is starting the ritual early, so I think there was a mistake here made. So I think you can skip the whole early thing, and it's just like they've arrived, the ritual, it must begin. The stars are right now, so let's begin. So he just begins chanting, in front of the altar and gestating and all that. Gestating is not the right word. Gesturing? There's a better word for it than that. It's not gestating. Okay, well, I would imagine some of us are going to try to attack him or something, probably go charge at him or something. And we just bounce off. And he will stop his chanting to explain the details of the ritual. And what they're trying to do. So now we've been made aware that each of these doors we're looking at contains a sacrifice. And they will be sacrificed very soon. So that's the more timing part, where it's like, okay, and like he wants to do it properly, in due time and all that, as he's continuing his chanting, which he's going to be here for hours and hours chanting, in order to get perfectly the exact right atmosphere, and then the sacrifices will all be happening simultaneously if nothing else happens. But the other cultists, I guess, are instructed if it looks like something's going to go awry and the sacrifice isn't going to happen, to just make it happen. All right, so we have to pick one of these doorways. It's going to be a D5 going clockwise from the top. 5. All right, it is the sand room. It's simple. So we go into 53, and we're like, oh shit. We start rushing. We burst into this room. We step onto sand. We look up, and we see this other robed individual. And he's got just, poor farmer man. John the farmer. Chained up. Oh, help me, please. Help me, there's something in the sand, please. No, he probably, I don't even know if he would know that. They're gonna kill me. I think it's not unreasonable to assume that we could just snipe the cultist and get this guy. I mean, rescuing him up this 20-foot platform, it begs the question, I suppose, of how they got him up there. But yeah, I mean, it's possible to one-shot this guy. He's got 14 AC, 9 hit points. I'm not going to be able to do that without a backstab or something. And spell-wise, I could probably put him to sleep, I suppose. There's a good chance I could put him to sleep. But, yeah. I mean, I'd also put the guy to sleep, and then we have to figure out how to bring him down safely, and it would be a whole thing. So, fuck it. Craig's just gonna whip out his longbow and try to snipe the cultist. No, misses horribly. So the cultist then is just like, oh, master, it is time. And he just boots the farmer in the ass and sends him tumbling down to the sand. Technically, that would be 2d6 damage. But it is sand, so I don't know. Sand seems like it would kind of hurt. I don't know. It should really be 2d6. I'm not quite sure how I'd explain that. Again, I don't know. You're a DM, you don't gotta explain shit. So he boots him down, lands with a big thud. Like, oh. And then immediately, like, the sand starts shifting, and we feel like a little tremors. Tremors! As like basically, like, you know, sandworm comes out from underneath, you know, like there's a hole starts appearing near him. He's like, oh, help me! And I guess we're gonna roll into initiative, assuming we charge forward to help, which I imagine we would. Yeah, I guess let's roll. So, Boulette. We need to look up proper stats for that. Okay, so, and I don't think the monster manual has a Boulette. I think that's, yeah. So they have the giant worm, though, but that's not quite what a Boulette is. According to Shadowdark, a Boulette is a hulking, shark-sized lizard with a steely, arrow-shaped carapace and a massive gullet. It can burrow into the ground. 17 AC, 40 hit points. This is a level 8 version, though. That's the normal version. So this one that we're fighting is specifically, a level 6 Boulette with 31 hit points and 2 bite attacks. So it's a bit easier of a one, but it's still not pleasant. You can also do a leap, jump up to 30 feet in height, and double 30 feet in distance, 60 feet in distance, and make 2 bite attacks. Yeah. So we're not going to use, we'll just use Shadowdark stats. That's fine. So it has +1 dex. So our dex is going to be 7. His is 4. We get to go immediately as he just sort of scrambles out from the sand and starts lunging towards the farmer. We have to either kill this thing or just grab the guy and run. One of the two. 31 hit points, and assuming it still has 17 AC, which it does, it's not easy. I don't really have much in the way of spells. I cannot slumber it without a crit. Even laying into it and assuming Craig hit every time for an average of like 6 or 7 damage, it's still going to take way too long, and it could easily kill us. Fuck. I feel like we'd probably have to grab him and go, but that's not going to be easy either. And anyone that grabs him is going to be, I mean, over encumbered. They'll be at disadvantage. The enemy will have advantage on your attacks against you for sure. So, I mean, Craig could grab him, but then, yeah, I think more likely Craig needs to distract this thing and get up in its face, while Ryarn and Scylla grab him and haul him out of there. And then Kurather can maybe throw out a magic missile or something to throw him off balance. I think that's probably the plan, because otherwise I don't see this happening. I just find it funny because there's nothing explained about how the cultist got up on this platform and how he's going to get down. So it's like, if we rush out of here and there's a Boulette here and stuff, like, what does the cultist do? Is there a rope? Should I just assume there's a ladder on the other side of this platform? That would make the most sense, I think. That would make the most sense. So then if anyone started climbing the ladder, he would just boot the sacrifice off anyways. And if players wanted to keep climbing up the ladder to fight the cultists, like that's on them. Okay, I think that makes the most sense. All right. So that's the plan. That's what we're going to do. Scylla and Ryarn are going to grab this guy. We'll say that he has like a broken leg. Like something snapped when he fell. I think that's fair. That's why he can't run. So they're going to haul him out of there. Craig is going to charge forward. Well, he's not going to charge, but he's going to rush forward and try and stab this thing as it comes out of the sand. Okay, he does hit, and he rolled max damage, so that was quite a nasty stab into this thing's snout. Excellent job. So that's, he's down to 24 hit points if it matters. We're going to cast Mage Missile. Success. Okay, excellent. So he's down to 20 hit points. Dang. Kill this thing. And then it is going to try to bite Craig twice. Yeah, because it gets 2 bite attacks. They're both going to be at +5, apparently. For 2d6 each. So the first one, miss. Second one, miss. Awesome. We get a new initiative then to see if Craig can get out of there or not. And it's, our initiative is 2. His is 2? Yeah, we tied. Ties go to players. I think, you know, I mean, I don't know if any game ever really says... Oh, either both sides may roll again or actions on both sides may be resolved simultaneously. That's a rare rule in modern day. You don't see that too often. Okay, I'm fine with a reroll. That's fine. Our new initiative is 3. His is 2. We got it. All right, Kurather will fire off one more Mage Missile. So he's down to 16. I'd say that we could kill it. Craig has a 55% chance of hitting. We might be able to kill it. The XP would be fairly nice for a level 6 creature. Whoops. Yeah, it would be 320 more XP, which would be pretty juicy. That is... Yeah, okay, never mind. It's kind of dumb, though. He could drop me very easily. Because if he crits, it's 4d6, which is average of 14. It's enough to kill Craig in one hit. He gets 2 shots. Even if he hits on one, it's, you know, 2d6. It won't kill me, but it's pretty risky, and I could fail initiative again. It's probably better to flee. We got him down to 16. Huh? We almost took him down to half with no problem. Fuck. All right, let's go for it. Okay, another hit. And I get to roll damage with advantage. Oh, nice. Another 7. Okay, he's down to 9 now. Shit. Also, I succeeded on his initiative. Or I beat his AC by 5 or more. I beat it by 5. So I can do a mighty deed. I imagine Pocket Sand wouldn't do much to a creature that burrows through sand. I feel like that's probably nonsensical. Do we have an easy reference for something that burrows that I could just check? Yeah, I think probably most of them had terrestrial mechanoreception. Yeah, I think every burrowing creature has that. Spells or effects that would ordinarily cause blindness do not affect them when they're using it. Right, so I think it wouldn't do anything. All right, so then I need an effect to just kind of leave it off balance or something. Can I just get like a image of a boulette just so I can picture it in my... Okay, so it looks like this. And it's the size of a shark, apparently. All right, I'm just gonna kind of like roundhouse kick it, I guess, to try to throw it off balance. Yeah, I'm just gonna try to throw it off balance then to give it like disadvantage on one of its attacks here. All right, so then it's gonna roll the first attack with disadvantage because it's off balance. Okay, so that missed. I just wasted two shitty rolls. Now it's second attack. Of course, I'm not surprised. So +5, that means 23. So he does 24. So he beats my AC as well. He takes I take 2d6 damage, 5, and he gets to do something to me. He's probably just gonna knock me prone. He's gonna drag me onto the sand, onto the ground by my leg. New initiative. Technically, I think if we're only using these two, it's still... Yeah, we've had this before. It's still +1. So our initiative is 6. His is 3. Excellent. Craig gets to stand back up again and try and stab. He's down to... Fuck. What was... Oh, 9. Yeah, he's down to 9 hit points. Crit fail. That's bad. Nothing I can do about that. We have no luck tokens or anything, so... He gets a free counter on me. He misses. Mage Missile does 2 more, so he's down to 7 now. And we're going to say that Scylla and Ryarn have now returned. So they're going to participate as well. They dumped the guy off in the doorway. And she's going to fire a short bow. She missed. Ryarn will yeah, fuck it. He'll charge in. He's going to charge with his mace. So he's going to roll advantage. Okay, 2 damage. So it brings him down to 5. Okay. The Boulette then is going to attack. It's going to attack Craig once, and it's going to attack Ryarn once. The 2 things next to it. So against Craig, he rolled a hit. And against Ryarn, he missed. So 2d6 on Craig is 6. I'm down to 2. New initiative. +1 on our side is 3. And 5 for him. He's going to do the same thing again. On Craig, he misses. Against Ryarn, fumble. Counter. Wait a minute. Ryarn rushed. Or Ryarn charged. No, I already should have done that. Oh, fuck. I should have already done that. Alright, I'll do it now. Okay. So that is a hit on Ryarn for 2d6. 8. Ryarn goes down. That's bad. We have no way of healing him, so he's probably dead. Well, I mean, we might be able to stabilize him, but he's going to be out for the count for this whole sequence, which sucks because Craig kind of needs the healing. I could give him my potion. That's probably the smart thing to do. Yeah. Alright. But then we get to go. Craig's going to try to stab him again. That is a miss. 1d4 on this. 2, so he's down to 3 hit points. And Scylla will try to end it. No. New initiative. Ours is 6, his is 5. Come on, Craig. No, miss. Short bow. Miss. Magic missile. Done, finally. Okay. If Ryarn dies, then the sacrifice counts. Unfortunately. So he had 3 rounds. That was 1 round. He tries to roll. He doesn't. Okay, so now we have 2 rounds for us to try to stabilize him. We don't have any bandages, so hopefully Kurathair can just do it. Nope, crit fail. I know we don't count that as a penalty or anything, but it's not good. Fail. Fail. 1 round left. Come on. CPR. Yeah, crit, baby! Got him. Alright, he's stable. I'm now going to give him my potion of cure moderate injury, which is 2d6 heals. He's back to full, but excellent. Okay, get your ass up, man. There is a cultist up there. I think he's just chanting now. He's probably chanting through the whole thing, so he doesn't really pay attention. We could kill him, but we have other work to do. Ryan is now going to try to cast Cure Light Injury on Craig. Fail. Well, that was your really only purpose here, man, so we probably should have let you die and I drank that potion, because now Craig's sitting here with 2 hit points. There's not a damn thing I can do. So it is what it is. All right. We'll go next in order. I guess we'll go clockwise. So we're going to go to 54, yeah. All right, we enter in. There are 8 massive fans, 1 on each wall. One of them is spinning. There's also a glass cube in the middle of the room, 10 foot wide, with a cultist and a peasant inside. An invisible stalker floats silently through the room. The fans, only one of them moves at a time. They change randomly each round. All but the invisible stalker have to roll DC 12 strength or get pushed away a near distance. Okay, this is a trickier one to run, I think. So I assume then... once we make some sort of move, but no, I'm not quite sure. There's a door to the glass cube. How would he initiate this with the cultists? Did he just shove him out the door? But then, like, we're right there. I guess as soon as he shoves the guy out, the guy's just gonna fail. I mean, you just make him fail his strength check. So he just suddenly gets whipped across the room to another side. And then we have to keep rolling to try to get after him. And then the invisible stalker just floats silently and completely is immune to the fans for some reason. What is an invisible stalker? Let's take a look. Intelligent creature made of flowing air, often bound to the bidding of evil sorcerers for their peerless tracking ability. 13 AC, 29 hit points, 3 pummel attacks at +4 for 1d6 each. Can fly. He's naturally invisible. Pretty problematic. This one, it seems like a tough one to stop. Invisible seems really hard to see by design. Yeah, I mean, I don't know if it ever defines invisible. It just says it's invisible. Like, the halfling just becomes invisible. Yeah, I mean, there's no rules exactly for what it means to be invisible. Axe probably defines it a bit better. Although I don't think it's a condition. I think it's specifically like a spell or magic effect. Yeah. It's pretty shitty, actually, because if you look at, say, the invisibility spell, you're really quite hidden. Invisible to ordinary sight, even lightless vision. Not even the caster can see it without the aid of discern, invisible, or true seen. Can still be heard, except it's just fucking air. Counts as hidden to all creatures unable to see. So we wouldn't really see this thing until it starts pummeling the sacrifice. But it's naturally invisible, so you can never see it. It's not like it turns off once it attacks. It's just a fucking invisible thing. So all our attacks against it are going to have disadvantage. Our only hope is Mage Missile. But even then, it has 29 hit points and 13 AC. There's no way you're winning this room. This is way too tricky. And you're getting blown around the room constantly. Which, I mean, realistically, I think would take, like, falling damage or something. Like, if we're getting slammed against these walls... Because these must be massive fans if they can just push around guys in plate armor and stuff and slam, move them around the room to the opposite wall. That's crazy. Poor Kurthair is just a smear at that point. I don't see us doing this. I mean, I think if I were DMing, I would play it out just so they could see how they failed, but I don't know how you'd ever succeed and actually save the guy. The only way is if you set it so that the monster is active immediately and the invisible stalker does just attack the party as soon as they enter. That is not what the text says. Because it says if they try to stop a ritual, cultist starts the sacrifice immediately, releasing the sacrifice from their protective area and unleashing the monster. So that is not at all what the text says would happen, but that's the only way that sacrifice is ever going to live. And at that point, it's like the players are probably dead. But at the same time, it says that the monster never goes for the sacrifice first. It says it focuses attacks on the players if possible. So really, it's just players in a room where they're getting blown around the room constantly, fighting an invisible bunch of air that pummels you to death. This is a fucking kill box, and I don't see a way around it, to be honest. Your best bet is trying to make him visible in some way. Either splashing him with, like, the embalming fluid or holy water, maybe. Then, but he's air. It's fucking air. Nothing can be on top of it. It's air. But then it's like, how can we even do damage to it at that point? Which, yeah, I mean, that raises a good question. I wonder if it's specifically, like, Shadowdark that says that it's just a bunch of air. I always envision them, like, actual, like... Aren't they in, like, Baldur's Gate 2 or something, and they just look like, I don't know, like some sort of weird little flesh golem or zombie or something? That seems to be what I recall. I don't know if they're in Axe or not. Oh, they are in Axe. Well, then this settles everything. Here we go. Oh my god, it's just no image. Damn it. Compelled by magic, blah, 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 blah. They're naturally invisible. They can act freely, including attacking without becoming invisible. Proficient searchers can track. Thrice per day, they can use passageway as a spell-like ability. No mere physical obstacle can stop an invisible stalker from pursuing its mission. They can be held at bay by Holy Circle and dispelled with counterspell or dispel magic. Okay, so they are air. They literally just come from the elemental sphere of air. So Shadowdark has it right. They get 1 attack per turn in Axe. Invisible Strike 3 or higher. Okay, so basically... Yeah, well, basically, yeah, they have a +8 on their attack roll for 4d4 damage. And they have 16 AC, and they're invisible. This is an absurd thing to put against a level 1 party. Like, absolutely, it's absurd. I just don't see it happening. So I think I would, yeah, if I were DMing this, I'd probably just narrate it. Like, I don't want a TPK from this thing, so, like, the cultist shoves the sacrifice, the peasant, out into the room. He starts getting blown around by the fans. The party gets blown around by the fans. And then suddenly this guy just gets, like, ripped apart in midair by something. Something invisible, you know, you suppose, just suddenly rips him apart in midair. Like Abdul al-Hazred or something, you know, just... And sensing that you have failed this room, you decide to leave before getting ripped apart by whatever did it to the farmer. That's the only way I would just handle it. But I'd probably be tempted to rewrite this room. I like the idea of, you know, the elemental plane of air, you know, it being connected to air, but this is just not fair. I don't know if I would just make it an air elemental, though, but it just has to be something flying, really. I don't know. I don't know how I'd rewrite it, but I would rewrite it. I don't like that room. I like the sand room. This one, not a big fan of. But unfortunately, I think I'm going to leave it off here. I'm really hungry for some reason. I feel like I end all these videos by saying that. But yeah, we have a few more rooms to go through. I do really love the concept, though. This whole sequence, I think, is really cool. Well done on that. And we can see that there's going to be an ether slime. There's going to be a room filled with fire spurts out of the floor and a jellyfish. And then a big pool filled with sharks. Yeah, I think that's cool shit. But we'll see how it goes. So far, I mean, the biggest winner from our conversion to axe spells has been Mage Missile. Because chances are Kurathair would have failed, even with advantage by this point. So that is a little bit nicer. But the thing with the advantage, Magic Missile, you have twice as good odds of getting a crit for 2d4. Here it's just steady, reliable 1d4. But yeah, I think it works out, because you're more likely not to cast it than you would with the normal Shadowdark spell. And then yeah, Fan of Flames, that was the thing I was most excited about, and that was a big fucking failure, so that's great. We haven't really gotten to use the cleaving rules yet, so we'll see. Just because that zombie fight ended abruptly. And then the charging rule ended up not working too well in Ryarn's favor, but that's what I mean. So that it's balanced. So balanced. We'll see how it goes. My name is Mang. This has been Solo Roll Manging. And I'll see you fine folks in the next part.